Hello and welcome back. In this video, I'm going to be giving proper names to techniques used in the SCA. Okay. Now, most of the techniques used in the SCA were basically invented kind of within the SCA. However, after the 50 or 60 or so years that they've been doing this and continually, improving their techniques, it's not a surprise that techniques used with objects that are similar to swords and shields resemble historical techniques. Okay? Because basically, people still had two arms and two legs back then. They moved the same way. A long weapon is going to move in a similar way. So basically, physics and body mechanics are going to drive you to the same point. Okay. So first, we're just going to talk about, we're going to talk about the different SCA strikes. Basically, we'll talk about the name that they use, and then we'll give it a proper historical name as found in the manuals. Now, the manuals that I'm focusing on are primarily the Lichtenauer manuals, also Lignature. If you look at, for example, at the Italian manuals, you're going to basically see some Italian equivalent. Okay, a totally different name, and that's also an important factor. Basically, as you traveled around Europe, all these strikes that, for example, we talk about in Lichtenauer, right? If you went to England, they would have a different name. If you went to Spain, it would have a different name. If you went to other parts of Europe, it would have a different name. So what's more important is the strike and what it accomplishes, not what it's named. But right now it seems, like in the HEMA community, the German names are the ones that are the most predominant, because basically we have so much material on that. So we're gonna go based on that. So let's start off with the SCA, the onside, right? The onside is basically a high horizontal cut, designed to basically go over that shield edge. All right, and basically this onside is going to basically, that's our Schwarzschild, our right side's Schwarzschild in the Lichtenauer system. Okay, so the onside is a Schwarzschild. On the left side Schwarzschild, basically we call that an offside. Okay, so basically Schwarzschild right side is your onside, Schwarzschild left side is your offside. Okay. So it's the same exact cut. It's just that's what they call it. And if you looked at, for example, in the Italian system, they call a right side cut a mandrito. On the left side it's a reversal. Which is not surprising. Basically, right side, left side. So we got onside and offside. So right side's Schwarzschild, left side for Schwarzschild. Okay. Another typical cut is, let's say, we just call it a leg cut. A strike at the leg. Basically, that's our middle house. Okay, and basically, a lot of times when people do this, they'll do it with a drop, because they're trying to get below that shield. And as you do it with a drop, of course, the angle comes a little bit higher. So what we just call a leg shot, that's your middle how. Okay, a middle how to the left side, we usually call that offside leg. So basically, any cut from here to there, whether you do it from out, you can initiate this from out of measure, come in, and make that cut. Okay, that's the offside leg. Basically, that's the left side middle how in the German system. Okay. Next, very popular shot is what they call the slot shot. It's basically it's a vertical cut where basically the sword comes in. Okay, sword comes in, and you're cutting in on the inside of your shield. Basically, you're bringing the sword in over to the left. That's the shield how. Okay. So what they call a slot shot is basically a shield how with the sword, and as you can see, I'm getting past the edge of that shield. Okay, so slot shot is your shield how. The Scheidel how, which is basically your high vertical cut. Right, that's your Scheidel how. They just call it a vertical cut. They don't have a special name for that. They just call it a vertical cut. Or they'll say, yeah, right down the middle or something like that. So they don't have a specific name for that. Now, mind you, I fight in Ethelmark, basically the northeastern part of the United States. And if you travel out to the west, they probably have they can have a whole different set of names that they use there. If you go down towards the south, they probably have a whole bunch of different names over there. Okay, so basically that's what these different cuts are called in the SCA in the area that I fight in. Okay. Next, let's talk about the Strutzhau, basically that plunging blow. Strutzhau, that's basically our scorpion wrap. Okay, so that's the Strutzhau scorpion wrap. Another interpretation of the Strutzhau that I've seen is basically where you basically turn the sword over on this side, all right? So basically, you palm up, right, and you're striking like that, okay? Basically, they just call this a Molinet. Any rotational cut in the SCA is usually referred to a Molinet. So even if it's a Molinet to that side, or a Molinet to the top of the head, they'll just call it a Molinet. So it's basically a rotational cut. But this particular type of a Molinet, is pretty much identical to the Strutzhau that we see in the German system. Another popular cut is the wrap, which is basically your Winkelhau. Okay, we see this in the Messer tradition. And basically, it's a horizontal cut that comes in. The blade is basically pointed slightly down. Okay, elbow up. That's the Winkelhau. That's basically our wrap. Okay, and basically, you can do it down here. You can do it down here. Basically, you can vary all these shots a lot. Another popular shot is the Unterhau. Unterhau, basically they'll just call it. They don't have a specific name if you're doing it blade up. So that's Unterhau. They'll just call it an upward cut or something. But what they do have is there's another version of the Unterhau where basically you're striking with the back edge. They call that a grass cutter. So an Unterhau with the back edge, as you close in, that comes in under the tip of that shield. They'll call that a grass cutter. Okay, so that's an Unterhau. Basically, it's striking up. All right. If you make a Schwarzschau, in the Lichtenauer manuals, we almost always see these Schwarzschaus done with the back edge, like that. In the SCA, when you're making an onside with the back edge, they'll usually call that a retique. Okay, so that's one that they'll call this a retique, and that's a Schwarzschau basically with the back edge, which is very popular. Doing the Schwarzschau with the back edge is very common in the Lichtenauer system. Okay, I think I've covered all the main shots that they use. There's all sorts of variations that you will see of these shots. And people make up their own variations, and usually they can be related to one of these different shots in one way or another. Like this is basically that Molinet, but I can also make that Molinet to the leg. Okay, same thing, except instead of stopping there, I bring it down over there. So that's again, they use that Molinet term for anything that's rotational. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about SCA fighting and the historical, what we can learn from it historically. Okay, now in the SCA, basically the target areas are basically if you hold your hands up, everything from your wrist to the top of the knee is a target area. Okay, they have this concept of what is a good enough blow, and that varies from kingdom to kingdom. Like where I fight in Nethermark, it has to be a pretty stout blow in order for it to be good. If you go down to Florida, Trimeris, down there they take very light blows. So they have different concepts of what's a good blow throughout the SCA. That varies kingdom to kingdom. Now let's talk about the grappling aspect of it, because basically we don't typically. The standard tournament rules are that we don't do grappling. How does that affect our ability to be able to fight in a realistic type situation? Well, here's the thing: if you go to Penzik, which is a major event that happens every summer, every July, you will find the Chucks there, and you will also find the Empire of Medieval Pursuits. So this is another organization that plays within the SCA, and they do grappling tournaments. Okay, so this is an SCA event that has basically allows for within the event they also have tournaments that allow for grappling. Okay, so grappling is your thing. Grappling with swords is your thing. The SCA has it. Now the other thing is, how about the fact that in standard tournaments we don't target the hands and we don't target the low legs. Okay, Well, basically, we do have, sometimes we will have tournaments that basically allow for full body targeting. Now, these aren't standard tournaments. These are tournaments that are done usually locally. We've had tournaments, for example, where the only target areas acceptable are the face, the armpits, and the back of the legs. Okay, so basically this is a tournament that is assuming full plate armor. Okay, where the only target areas are the face, the armpits, and the back of the legs. So we have tournaments like that within the SCA. I've done tournaments where the only target area is the head. We call it, it could be anywhere in the head, but it has to be the head. We call that a skull crusher tournament. Okay. We've had just tournaments that are just armor as one. So basically, you have to hit somebody in areas that they don't have armor. So within the SCA, even though we have the standard of rules that apply to society as a whole, we do modify the rules, for specific events and specific tournaments, in all sorts of different ways. I mean, in some cases they're trying to be more historical. In some cases they just, they just want to do something completely different. We've had tournaments where basically you have to fight left-handed, okay? Or you have to use a shield of a specific size. It can't be bigger than this, or it can't be smaller than this. Or we've had tournaments where no shields are allowed. We have tournaments where it's like great weapons only, great swords only, pole arms only, two swords only. So they modify the rules all the time for specific events. Now, also within the SCA, what we also have is we have rapier fencing. Okay, with rapier fencing, basically we're fighting with rapiers. Basically, only thrusts count. That we're using steel blades. Only thrusts count. Slices of draw slices of 6 inches or more count as a kill, and also a tip cut. You can make a draw cut of 6 inches or more. That qualifies as a kill. Okay. Then we also have cut and thrust within the SCA. Okay. Now again, this is basically we're using steel blades. The whole body's a target area, and basically they're just using lighter calibration. So there's so much stuff going on there. And I have fought so many different types of tournaments where I've been forced to adjust to this rule set, or to that rule set, or to the other rule set. That putting me in a tournament and saying, okay, now the hand and the low legs are not an area. That's not a problem for me. I just basically know that I have to adjust my shield a little bit forward so that my hand is now covered. Okay? I also know I have to manage my distance a little bit better, so I can't be hit at the low leg with this type of a shield. Obviously, if I was using a kite, which is longer, it would be a different story. I have to distance manage it. I have to be aware with a kite shield, from what distance and what range and what angles they can hit my legs. Okay, so that's the thing. The more different types of tournaments and competitions you do, the more you practice on the different rule sets against different people, the more you'll learn to be able to adapt and do more things, in less time. You'll be able to learn faster, and that's really one of the benefits of the SCA. And like I said, I've also done HEMA. I still continue to study HEMA. That's why I'm doing these videos. These videos are primarily HEMA videos. I use the proper medieval names, and I've been focusing a lot on Liggener as far as the different techniques that he tells us to use. And again, they're very, if you go back and you watch some of the videos I've done on Liggener's techniques, you'll see a lot of the same idea. He's using a lot of misdirection. Like he's telling us to, watch out. There's one where he tells us to start off leg. Then work out left side, work out right side, come down the middle, go back to leg. So basically, he's using a lot of misdirection. Basically, he wants to shield, he's pulling your defense in all sorts of different directions, trying to create openings, which is, very typical of SCA fighting. But ultimately, if you want to become a good fighter, okay, if you want to become the best fighter that you can be, what I advise people is fight in, train and fight in as many different organizations as possible, and specifically try and fight as many different people as possible. And it doesn't matter if, ideally you want them to be better than you, so that you can learn from them. But even if you're at your own level, at your level or below your level, you can still learn from them. Because a lot of times I'll be fighting somebody that's a complete newbie, and my focus is not on killing them. Well, my focus is on practicing a particular technique. Like I might go into it and say, okay, today I want to basically focus on that strut out, where I'm striking over the top. So throughout the course of my fighting, that's my goal, trying to, being able to try and execute that shot, and then from there seeing where else I can go. Perhaps I can go to there, perhaps I can pull back and go to the leg. But the thing is, you want to fight as many different people as possible, because everybody's gonna, bring something different to the table. Just the way they react to your shots, the type of shots that they throw, and all this is a learning opportunity, and it's also an opportunity for you to test, what you know and what you can do. Because it's funny, because sometimes you can be fighting for a long time against people that are really, really good, and you're doing very well against them, but then you go and you fight somebody who's like almost a newbie, and you're having a difficult time against that person because they're doing stuff that you're not expecting. Okay, so there's stuff to be learned from everybody, and which is why I recommend to people serious about learning swordsmanship. Fight as much as you can against as many different people as possible in as many different organizations as possible. So those are my thoughts on that. If you guys have any feedback or comments, please post them. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, share it. If you're not a member, subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.